Well, good afternoon to all of you. I think you saw on your agenda there is supposed to be a tea break or a coffee break. So I will not apologize that I am replacing your coffee. Okay, I'm not standing between you and your coffee. There is no coffee break. So to compensate for that, I'm not going to do a long, boring speech. Okay, I'm going to ask you questions. I hope the organizers will forgive me if I say, please ask questions right through. Anytime you feel you have to say something, put your hand up. If you're sitting in the last row, you better have a loud voice. If you're sitting anywhere in between, I'm sure we can hear you. Because I am going to ask you questions, and let's make it interactive. Because what are we trying to do here? And I will start from where Manisha left off. Okay, she said that, look, any organism, any individual, any creature that does not evolve, does not transform, is bound to be obsolete. And my belief is that any manager, any leader who believes that, look, I've been there, done that, I've occupied the corner office of this company, or I've become the director of an institute or whatever, and feels now it's done, I can coast through the next 15, 20 years of my life, is in for a very rude surprise. Because my belief is that we're going to see transformation happening in various segments almost on a daily basis. What are those transformations? One, of course, is the geopolitical environment, because nothing is going to be the same again. I mean, if you were in Delhi and you thought the AAP government would continue, suddenly BJP comes in. Okay, if you were in Telangana and thought the BJP would come back, and there is something else. So, I mean, that's the political side of it. And if you were a Democrat in America and thought that Trump will not come back for a second term, you know what happened. Okay. So today the Panama Canal is being renegotiated between China and America. I think in the next 3 months, you will see stuff happening worldwide which you've never imagined could happen. And one could be as disastrous as USAID and WHO not getting funding. And the others could be much more fundamental, which will affect the way you and I think and work. So I think that's one. So call that the pull of geopolitics, that things are changing, and that is an inexorable pull which will keep you glued and watch. And if you don't watch, you'll be pulled away. The second, and probably the equally important, is the fundamental problems we have. If you recall the most exciting WhatsApp discussions that have happened in the last 3 weeks, it is because of a very well-meaning gentleman called S.N. Subramaniam, the MD of Larsen & Toubro, making a very casual remark about 90-hour work week. If you do the calculation, for heaven's sake, we're all grown-up people. Nobody can work 90 hours per work week. But just because a man kind of figuratively throws it around, we discuss it and we say, oh my God, and then will I look at my wife and my wife look at me? I mean, is it even relevant? But this is what we love to do, because WhatsApp and Instagram have taken over our thinking. So in a sense, what happens is, for people who are trying to get work done, Prime Minister Modi be it, or it is S.N. Subramaniam or Narayan Murthy or whoever, you find that there's a huge pull or a huge drag. So if you imagine, there's a drag of people who want inertia. We used to say earlier that, look, young people are very, very happy to go out and make stuff happen. The leaders are always ready to take the charge, and middle management is a problem. But today, everybody with a sense of deja vu, with a sense of complacency, can drag the organization. So we talked about the geopolitical pull. That's one dimension. The second is, as I said, the attitudes of people who want this wonderful thing called work-life balance all the time. And the third, and possibly the most important, I noticed my good friend, Mr. Mohan Reddy, was here in the morning. And Mohan talked about AI. And we have a dinner tonight where we're going to discuss what he said and what I said and argue about it. So there'll be good fun. But if you look at AI, and I'm going to take maybe 10 minutes to talk a little bit more about AI than what Mohan would have talked about. AI can be the most enabling force that mankind has ever seen, or it can be the most destructive force that mankind can ever see. Okay, so what I'm going to do in the next 35 minutes, I promise you I'll finish on time, is to engage you in a discussion on all these three. That look, in this context of a huge pull coming from another side, a huge push coming from technology, and a drag coming from inertia, how do leaders respond to these situations? So that's the basic premise, okay? So I'll just take you through. I'm not necessarily going through all my slides, but I will take you through a few slides. This is World 3.0. World 1.0, everything was business as usual. We took up one job, stayed in it, retired, and looked after the garden. World 2.0, when we all started, I do 14 jobs at the same time. I'm not moonlighting, so I'm not taking 14 salaries, okay? I'm doing 14 jobs at the same time and taking whatever I need from each one of those 14. Okay, so when I say 14 jobs, I think I get worried nowadays. This is what I talked about. And I just thought about the Gen X and Gen Z business, so it's not there on this slide. But I think you will find that the tariff barriers that we're all worried about. Okay, Trump, of course, as all of you must have realized by now, he throws out the most negative idea he can get, watches for reactions, and then backtracks from it. So never believe the first thing you hear from Donald Trump. Okay, that's always been something we've figured out. But there is no doubt there's a slowing global economy. Okay, the fact that RBI has reduced rates after 5 years shows that we recognize the world is not the same place. In America this morning, there's already news that people are worried about inflation, which means the great American party might get disrupted a little bit because of inflation. Indian economy is in for a tough time. Okay, whatever we may say, whatever the economic survey may say, this year is not going to be easy. And companies that can continue to grow 10-15%, deserve a big round of applause in my opinion, because that's extremely important. The third is the point I'm going to talk about for the next 30 minutes. How do you then create this very empowering shared vision that differentiates the leading companies from the also-rans? I mean, if we are very proud about companies like Infosys in the technology sector, if you're very proud about a company like L&T, which is, I mean, today almost 60% market share in construction and engineering is going to L&T, it's quite amazing. And if you're very proud of, let's say, companies which are in payments and digital, etc., it's because a few of them had leadership which could see that additional vision. I'll give you 3 examples from my own background so that you understand how do you think about innovation. I'll give you my first CEO role was way back, 1991. I was working for this very nice company called NIIT. I got headhunted to be the CEO of this company called Aptech. And like any young 32-year-old, you don't always ask the right questions because somebody says, I'm giving you a CEO role, and you think, oh my God, this is what my life was made out to be, and you don't ask questions. And just to give you an example, and this is public information, I'm not telling you anything new. In that time, 1991, NIIT was a 70 crore company. Aptech was a 4 crore company. Now that itself is daunting, 1/18th of the size of your biggest competitor. But I forgot to ask the next question to the recruiter saying, what's the profit of the company? The company was making 11 crore loss on 4 crore revenue. Now believe me, it takes caliber to do that. It takes caliber. Has any of you ever tried to do that kind of loss? Of course, now the dot-coms will say, hey, 11 crores is nothing. We'll make 11,000 crores loss and show you. But this was before that time. Unicorn or a negative unicorn or whatever you may call it, sir. So the reason for that was very simple, that, we had these humongously big computer training centers. I mean, one was right here in Hyderabad, in Bashirbagh. So we have 7 large training centers, all bleeding to death because they were so fantastically designed. And you had 2 franchise centers, one in Ranchi and one in Jamshedpur. Don't ask me why they were in Jharkhand, and they were making profits. So when I came into this company, I said, look, the first thing we have to fix from an innovative mindset is we have to fix these losses. So we said, why on earth are we even running our own centers? Because we were, there was this conventional thinking that unless you are a large brand, you are demonstrating how it can be done, no franchisee will take up your brand. So what we went around doing is we sold off 7 of those 9 centers that we were running to franchisees, and then 2. And then we sat down and said, let's make a empowering vision for the future, saying we'll do a completely franchised organization. We'll set up computer education centers all over the country. And we got our team together in 1992 and said, okay guys, what do we want to become? Let's make a vision for the year 2000, which was 8 years away. And logically, we thought about it. One person was very bold. I mean, this company had built 7 centers in 10 years, but they said in the next 8 years, we must be at least 100 computer education centers, and at least one of them must be outside India. In those days, outside India meant which country? Dubai, of course. US was unheard of. So I said, one in Dubai, 99 in India. And I keep telling people, I was doing this talk at Harvard Business School last year, and I said, thank God I didn't write it down as a formal vision statement, because when I left Aptech in 2001, we were 1,400 training centers, 42 countries, 24 we were hold the applause, 24 we were market leaders, including in China. Okay, so this was purely by saying, let's make stuff happen and let's build a community, a collaborative community of business partners. I mean, I remember we had one gentleman who was running a franchise center in Amirpet, who was a billionaire living in Bahrain. We had another entity running the Secunderabad center here in Hyderabad, who were IIT, IIM, both of them. Completely different types of people, but combined in a common cause. Fast forward in 2001, I then got headhunted to move to Pune and run this software company called Zensar Technologies. And that was great fun. This was, again, it was a little 40 crore company. at a time when the Infosys and the TCSs and the Wipros had already become very, very large entities. And why did I move to Pune? Because I was just getting bored of running one company for 10 years. And I said, let's try this out. And then this was 2001. If you remember, 2001 is when the dot-com bust and boom, as they call it, became a bust. What was called B2B and B2C was called back to Bangalore, back to Chennai. Everybody came back from the US because there was nothing left in the US after the dot-com. And yeah, Y2K had just finished. You're absolutely right. You can do my speech, okay? I want to sit there. Okay. And of course, a gentleman called Osama bin Laden was about to happen in the world. I joined in April, and that happened in 9/11, is 4 months away. Now, in such a situation, how do you build a company? I mean, if I had more time, I would ask you to guess what we did. But I don't have time, so I'll tell you the story. So we said, look, the one thing we cannot do is try and be the mini Infosys or the mini TCS. It doesn't make any sense. So since I had run a public limited company, Aptech was listed by then on the London Stock Exchange, Bombay Stock Exchange. I called up my analyst friends in Mumbai and said, what would you do if I were you? He said, look, boss, you're a small company, 40 crore, small business, 400 people. So don't try and compete for large companies. Okay? Just be a good leader who will lead your company into working for smaller entities. I said, okay. What else do you think? He said, just focus on one niche. Okay? Don't try and be an Infosys. Be a geometric software. Maybe focus on engineering services, something very specific. Exactly what Mohan Reddy's company was doing in the early days as Infotech Enterprises. So I went back to my team because I'm this great person who never takes decisions. Let it come from the organization. Let them say what they want to do, like we did in Aptech. So I asked them, what do you want to do? And the consensus was we should only work with the large Fortune 500 companies. I said, oh my God, this is not what the stock market wants. The second was we should be on a follow the customer approach, that whatever the customer wants, we should deliver in terms of technology. So exactly contradictory to what the stock market wisdom was. So I said, okay, the people have spoken, let's do it. So we had just hired a young person. He was a chief technology officer. I still remember his name, Dilip Thomas Nithiera. So I asked Dilip, saying, what do you want to do, boss? He says, boss, let's put out a fantastic story that nobody will believe. I said, that sounds like a good starting point. So I said, what is the story? He said, look, we're a programming company. I said, yeah, of course. Every software company is a programming company. He says, let us put out a story that Zensar is the first company in the world which does programmerless programming. I said, okay, tell me more. He said, no, we can do it, don't worry. And that time there was, even if you're in technology, you'll know there were some tools becoming, but now ChatGPT writes everything. There's no programmer left in this country. It's all ChatGPT and AI. But those days, people used to write Java and .NET and what-all programs. So what we did was, we had a great marketing guy. If you remember, his name was Subbu. And Subbu said, now that we know what we're going to do, not that we can do it, but we know what we're going to do, let's write to the Fortune 500 CIOs. So we wrote 500 emails, letters, faxes to Fortune 500 CIOs of companies. Took us a month to get the data. And we waited, saying somebody is going to come back and say, wow. So we got 3 responses to those 500 letters. Okay. 2 of which said, don't waste our time. We've never heard such bullshit before. But one person, interestingly, and this gentleman's name was Stuart Senior. I'm telling you a real story. That's why I'm taking names. Stuart Senior was IT director of Marks & Spencer. You all know Marks & Spencer. He wrote to me and said that, look, nice to hear from you, Mr. Natarajan. And it sounds interesting. And when you're here in London, drop in for a cup of tea and we can chat. I'm a sales guy. So I said, Mr. Senior, you're so amazing. This Thursday afternoon, I'm in London. Can I meet you? So he didn't believe me, I didn't believe him, but he said, okay, come. So Dilip and I caught the cheapest possible flight from Pune to London. We landed in his office. And Dilip is a sales guy. So he made this amazing presentation on something called solution blueprinting. And now if you talk to the computer, all that is possible now, by the way. But in those days, it wasn't. It's 2001. Okay, and we just tell them what is the use case, and it'll generate code. You can decide whether it's going to be in Java or .NET, etc., etc. So I still remember Stuart Senior. It was a nice sunny day in London. So he looks out of the window and says, yes, and pigs will fly one day. Thank you so much. So we caught the next flight back, and I told Dilip, boss, let's stop wasting our time. Let's recruit programmers and build a company. He said, no, boss, So then I got a call 10 days later from Stuart saying, you gave this fantastic story to me. I have an opportunity. I have a $2 million engagement that we're going to give to our standard vendors, Capgemini, Wipro. We'll give it to you also. Okay, you do the first part of the exercise, which was worth about $200,000. Show me that you can do what you said. I said, Dilip, nab to mar gaye, now nothing we can do. He said, don't worry, boss, Pune will get cheap programmers. Okay, so we went out and hired 100 programmers, made them work 90 hours a week or 100 hours a week for 3 months, and we delivered. Okay, and suddenly we were in business because Marks and Spencer then eventually became a $40 million account for us. So suddenly I'm saying, I mean, this seems like a crazy story to talk about innovation, but if you don't think out of the box, if you don't have a different point of view, you're not going to succeed. Okay. Today I do a lot of work in the social sector, and I was telling Manisha before we started, my main theme is it's not that young people don't want to kind of absorb skills. Of course you can skill them. But in the early days of skills, and God bless the Prime Minister, again they've come up with a massive funding for Skills India mission. But the first one failed because everybody and his brothers, somebody said, I'll set up a plumbing institute. Okay, and I'll get all these people to come, we'll give them free lunch, free chai, etc. They did the plumbing course. They didn't take up the job. 88% did not take up jobs after skilling. 50% of those 12% who took up jobs dropped out in 3 months. This is published data of NSDC. So, but then it slowly changed. But we said the problem is not how do you skill people and get them jobs. The problem is how do you want people to take up jobs. Now, this may sound very funny in a country where the biggest problem staring us in our face is unemployment. But we started a whole process of saying for 6 weeks, if you get a person from maybe the slums in Chandanagar here, you don't want to teach them skills. You want to teach them the power to dream. You want to give them a social sector word called agency, the aspiration to be better than what you are today. By doing that today, we have 2.5 lakh people around the country who are participating in projects like this. And they're very happy with what we do. The reason I give you this long preamble is, I think the ability to create a shared vision, which is differentiated from competition, is what makes leaders successful. Now let me come to AI, and then I'll take you through a few slides, and that's what it is. Let me ask you the first question. What is the worst imaginary or real thing that you think AI will do to us? Anybody? Potentially. I'm not saying it will do it. What is the bad potential of AI? Anybody? Come on, guys. I'm denying you your coffee. Yes, sir. But you haven't answered my question. What is the enormous damage you think AI can do to the world? Yes, sir. You in the brown t-shirt. You let it come a little further. Yeah. Go ahead. It can destroy your creativity or enhance your creativity? It can destroy your creativity. Okay, I'll take one more and then we can keep. Sorry? What happens to the stock market? Oh, that way. I mean, you can create hype companies which can be. No. You're talking about something we may not know is true. I mean, she's talking a little bit about the $3.6 trillion valuation of NVIDIA, for instance, or the multiple billion-dollar valuation of OpenAI. And suddenly there's a thing called DeepSeek comes from China, and we think that has destroyed AI. But let me answer my own question for you. The worst thing that can happen to AI is if you allow it to fall into the hands of very, very divisive people. Let me give you what I mean by that. It means, I was actually in a discussion 2 months ago with Yuval Noah Harari. I'm sure many of you have heard of Harari, the man who wrote Sapiens. Then he wrote what is my all-time favorite book called Homo Deus, and then wrote this awful book called Nexus. It's there on every bookshop, don't buy it. It's just one huge rehash of various things. But Harari himself is brilliant. So when we met him in New York, and he was giving us an example. Imagine you were Lenin. Okay, all of you have heard of Lenin, the great dictator of Russia, who would, if you said anything against Lenin, you would be on a file. The file would be sent to the Kremlin, and by the time a Babu opened the file, it was hopefully 6 months. But when they opened it, you were dead. You would be assassinated. There was no question. Okay, so Harari was saying, imagine if you gave a malicious AI to Lenin. Not only would Lenin know, not in 6 months, but in 6 hours, somebody who made a negative statement against him, he would also know that a child has been conceived of parents who are very dubious in their lineage towards Lenin. So best to kill the child even before it's born. Sounds extreme. But think about it. Think about a real story. All of you have heard about the Rohingyas in Myanmar. Okay. The Rohingyas in Myanmar were subject to a massive massacre, which doesn't get reported because of the way Myanmar is. But the reality, and it's actually very well described in the book Nexus, He said that, look, there was an elderly cleric in Myanmar who started posting extremely negative stuff about the community on Facebook. And Facebook is unfortunately the language of communication in many countries today. A lot of voices came up and said, what is he talking about? No, there's nothing wrong. The Rohingyas are as much a community in Myanmar as anybody else. But Facebook's algorithms were such that they always further propagated stuff that was creating more eyeballs. Because Facebook's job is to sell more subscribers and sell more advertising. So slowly, the cleric got maximum mileage on Facebook, and the people who were more moderate voices were subdued by Facebook. So he's saying it's an algorithmic assassination. There was an inquiry on Facebook, and Zuckerberg, of course, said, no. I mean, we just post, we just propagate whatever people want. Now, the whatever people want itself is the evil that gets propagated. And recently, if you probably noticed, Mr. Zuckerberg went out and said that we will no longer do any fact-checking. That one statement can destroy the planet. And this is the power of AI. Please remember that. Okay. So having given you the wrong preamble, let me come to the text of what I'm going to say, and we do it very fast. See, this is how companies are evolving today. So I'm just giving you a preamble for this for AI. I mean, most of us, when we understood digital, it was because of what you see there, Facebook and Google, because it's free, massive information available at zero cost, which is what DeepSeek is trying to do. It moved to the experience model. I mean, today, very few of us go to theaters because Netflix, I'm myself watching four different movies on Netflix over the last 3 months. One day I'll finish at least 2 of those. There's no rush. You get bored of it in 5 minutes, you're distracted, go do something else. Netflix will remind you and you can resume forever. So much convenience. This is the new experience model. And the platform model, which is what UPI and Digital India and all that is happening, how we can pay for our stuff, is really what is most interesting, but that is what makes the difference between what we have seen in the past as something that you buy versus something that you really use from a platform. So this is one way of understanding the industry. So if you look at it, the point I'm making is, which I've made in the last 20 minutes, and I won't labor it in the next 20, is that as leaders, these are extremely important things for us to do. There is a digital evolution, there is geopolitical pulls, everything I said earlier. So first question that we would ask as well as leaders is, what Dilip asked me, do we identify unique offerings that will make us stand out from competition? One. The second is, again, the point that Manisha was making, that nobody cannot innovate. Of course, everybody can innovate. Of course, every company can innovate. Do we have an engine that can continually innovate year after year? Do we have in our organization, in our academic institute, in wherever we are, that we continue to do that innovation journey and don't rest on our laurels? Because the minute you feel that you're done, then you're really done. Nothing is going to happen for you beyond that. Okay. The third, of course, is, if you're running a company which has products and services, I keep telling this to startups, that unless your product or service is superior, you may last for a couple of months, but then you'll go away, which is what OpenAI is worried about today. If you look at our wonderful Sam Altman, he came to India 3 years back and said, India is finished. You guys can't compete with us on AI and everything else. He comes 1 week ago and talks to our minister and says, India is the future of AI. Okay. Because suddenly somebody brought him down to earth called DeepSeek. Okay. Suddenly we find that $100 million to train a large language model is not required, and a distillation model, I won't get into the technical, hopefully Mohan covered it. The distillation model and inference model, that is what DeepSeek is all about, can make the same thing happen at 1/10,000th of the cost. So that's what I'm saying, that can we demonstrate superior product service performance year on year on year, otherwise you'll get obsolete. So companies like Intel in the early days, now they've gone obsolete. Apple for a long time demonstrated this product. I think that is really so I think the world beater ideas is if you think of one thing that you must go out and practice, can I create ideas? Can I innovate? Can I think of new ideas? And nobody is too poor or too uneducated to innovate. In fact, the best innovation sometimes comes from the poorest countries. Okay. Second is, of course, the old value, which is called customer intimacy. So this is natural. We've all talked about customer delight till the cows come home. I don't know if any of you know what is the most famous quote of Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. He actually went out and said publicly, which only Steve Jobs can do and get away with it. He said, I can never trust the customer to know what she wants. Customer delight, customer intimacy, what are we talking about? But his point was, I will create the product first and then create the want for the product. Remember, we used to have these Walkmans. Then came the iPhone and that went obsolete. So that is the power of people like Jobs, but there are not too many Jobs. Okay, so I'm just saying that customer intimacy, making sure that we go the extra mile for selective customers. So that's why all these premium programs, etc., etc. And classically, Southwest Airlines in America, they kind of beat the whole system of, I still remember getting into the business class of a United Airlines flight from San Francisco to London. And this woman, my name is Natarajan, but she is Latino. So she said, welcome, Mr. Natarajan. So I said, my name is not Natarajan, it's Natarajan. So she says, why would I care, sweetie? Am I a business class customer or not? For an air hostess to say, why would I care what your name sounds? But this is the American airline culture, okay? And British Airways economy class, I'm sure we'll agree, is not very different from that. But the point I'm making is that from why would I care, sweetie, to say, can I expect or can I anticipate what you want, is where good customer service is. And I think if you don't do that, customers have no loyalty these days. I mean, they will throw you out into the waste paper basket the minute they get a better, cheaper product from Amazon, okay? So can we do this without losing expertise, without compromising what we stand for? I think all these are the questions we must ask. Just a quick slide on how does AI really evolve. It evolved because there was always reporting, there was always data, there was always information. But what AI has made happen, and I can send you these slides, so I know it's a little far away from people like in the back. But the second last box, which is what they call predictive analytics. Why is AI becoming important for leaders and managers? Because it will give you insights, not to not make you think, as somebody said, but to make you think in a better fashion. Because all the data that you need to take your decision is available through AI today. And that is the best way to look at AI. In fact, we've just launched a company on the Bombay Stock Exchange called GTD Data Solutions. The whole premise of that company is what we call dual intelligence. That AI by itself will keep evolving. Humans have to evolve at a speed faster than AI to be competitive. So dual intelligence is nothing but the summation of human intelligence and artificial intelligence should be such that you can actually make much better things happen. And that is what will happen through predictive analytics. AI, of course, as all of us know, also does prescriptive analytics. I mean, today when you get into Amazon and Amazon says, oh, somebody exactly like you bought this book, can I order it for you? You're succumbing to predictive analytics. Okay, so you have to decide on your own. Don't let AI decide what book you should read next. Otherwise, the biases that AI will develop can actually kill you. So I think, but these are topics for another day. I'm just saying, this is something you have to remember, that you have to develop that dual intelligence. Do not ignore AI. Because AI will not ignore you. So embrace AI, but master AI to make that happen. So I think this is important. So finally, I mean, if I look at how you should look at it from an AI and digital point of view, I don't know if you've heard of digital customer journeys, but today almost in every brand, whether it's in retail, in financial services, in hospitality, even in healthcare, we are trying to use technology to predict the customer journey. That at what stage will diagnostics have to be done? At what stage should treatment options be given? So people are really thinking through this. I'm sure, I mean, you'll hear about it from Apollo and so many other people, but everybody is looking at how technology can ease the journey of the customer. Same thing with learning. Okay, this is actually my favorite theme. We're doing a lot of investment in this area. But just to give you an example, I mean, don't look at the slide right now. What is the problem with learning? Are you aware of a statistic that out of all the e-learning courses that are proliferate around the world, hardly 12% of courses get completed by people who started? And the retention in people's minds is hardly anything. Like, I mean, I can happily watch 4 movies on Netflix at the same time because I don't need to remember what Shah Rukh Khan said in scene 3. I mean, if I remember, I'm mad, okay? But if you're learning something, you better remember, right? But we do e-learning the same way as we watch Netflix movies. Net result, outcomes are extremely poor. So we started doing a lot of research about 4 years back, and we said, look, the problem is nobody asks, I mean, we call this character Aditi. So nobody asks Aditi what she wants to learn. I gave you the example in the social sector also. Because Aditi may have joined Infosys, sorry to use Infosys, I'm just taking as an example, 2 years ago, and now she says, oh my God, I'm in programming, but maybe I should be in sales. Maybe I should do something else. Suppose you had a little AI bot who popped up in front of Aditi on a screen saying, hey Aditi, what do you really want to do with your life? So Aditi says, maybe I want to do this, but I would also like to explore this, etc., etc. So AI can help her to say, if you want to do this path, or you want to become a program analyst and a systems manager or whatever, this is the path you have to take, this is what you need to learn. However, if you want to consider change in career, this is what you have to unlearn, this is the reinforcement learning you have to get, these are additional courses. Oh, and by the way, if you want to choose this path, I'll guide you on the learning path. Now the AI bot has got Aditi hooked, which the HR manager, poor thing, could never do. Okay, so Aditi is now saying, okay, let me explore. And AI says, hey, by the way, we know that you don't like reading too much of text, so we're going to show you a lot of videos because you're much more of a graphical kind of person. So what we call adaptive learning. So adaptive learning delivered in this style, not just in case, but just in time, based exactly on what Aditi needs, results in learning efficiency of 90% as against 12% in e-learning. You see the point I'm making? That if you really use commonly available technology uncommonly well, and you have the leadership wisdom to think through this, you can change the way your company works, the company learns, the company deals with customers, etc., etc. So this is just a few examples I'm throwing at you. So just to stop at one point, and then I'll take the last 10 minutes. So if you want to be a dual intelligence leader, think this through. You have to be able to have a transformational leadership style. All the examples I've been giving of completely out-of-the-box thinking. You have to innovate. You have the ability to either see the future or, like Steve Jobs, build a future which nobody has seen. Both are possible. I mean, there are some very maverick leaders who can do the second part, but most of us can see the future and build our solutions towards it. Enhancing human intelligence and systematic AI. So meaning, systemic AI, sorry. Because AI, and again, this could be a 2-hour lecture by itself. People are saying that, look, there's no longer any point in just relying on point AI. Point AI solutions is where some small problem gets resolved. Application AI, which what I believe Indian companies should be doing, and I'm sure large companies like Mphasis, Infosys, Wipro are all doing. They're building application AI and giving it to their clients. But most important, in a large entity or even a large state or a society or Hyderabad, you need to have a systemic AI solution, which means that AI should be able to alleviate the suffering of every citizen, whether it's a traffic issue, whether it's a healthcare issue, education issue, skills issue. I think that's really where we are looking. That is what dual intelligence leaders will do. They will think through a system for the future and put all their human intelligence and AI solutions around it. So just a few more slides on leadership role in the future. In strategy, I already mentioned this. Okay, articulate vision, the value proposition of what you're trying to do, extremely important. And a combination of what we call better processes, better management systems, better business unit structures. There's a wonderful book called Value Disciplines by Veer Sema and Tracy. They're both BCG consultants, where they talk about, whether it's product innovation, customer sovereignty, or is it something like logistics, just the speed at which you get product to market. I mean, all these are important. Amazon is a practitioner of logistics, speed of getting your stuff. Apple was a practitioner of product innovation. So whatever you want to do as a leader, decide this is our strategic thrust as an organization. This is another thing that I always worry about, that even today a lot of people think that I have 3,000 people reporting to me, so I'm this big boss, everybody should come and worship me and pray to me. It doesn't work anymore. Even if they say that we'll worship you, they won't worship you. Okay, so from this the old manager to the new leader, so the new leader is a coach and a guide. We know this. I'm saying this I'm preaching to the converted. But are you practicing it enough? Especially in the context of what I said earlier. The customers are changing because of geopolitical, your demands are changing because of innovation, and your people are kind of thinking of very, very different ways of work-life balance. So can we do this? And to do this, what do good leaders do? They do all these things. They create new markets, they love new technology, they push their teams, eternal optimists, willing to wait. The question is, and let me ask you a question and get a quick response. How do you, if you've been given the task of leading 300 people and building a successful business unit, organization, whatever, how do you create great followers? Anybody?
Relationship.
Sorry?
Relationship.
Anybody else? How do you create great followers? 300 people will follow you and say, boss, tell us what you want to do and we shall follow you. You are the Pied Piper of Hyderabad.
Create more leaders with you.
Sir, you answered my question. You cannot create more followers in this world, ladies and gentlemen. The minute you try and create followers, you either have to be Prime Minister Narendra Modi, okay, or you have to be on a different planet. Because no way people want to follow anybody anymore. Okay, so what we are saying is leaders do not create followers. You create context. A new generation of leaders has to emerge. Only then can we be successful in an organization. Please remember that. I know it's very obvious when I say it, but we forget it sometimes in our need to be the all-empowering, all great leader. Okay. Connected leadership is something which is pretty obvious. So participating, facilitating, enabling, very important. That's why I said the leader cannot see himself or herself as the all-knowing commander, order giver, extraordinary. You have to be a Zubin Mehta. You have to be a symphony conductor who is not the best violinist, not the best pianist, not the best cello player, but gets the best out of the entire team. Okay, that's pretty obvious. So Jack Welch in his heyday was exactly this. He used to spend 20% of his time interacting with young people in this training center that GE had called in Crotonville. And that was what he was famous for, because he really knew, and all the same he was ruthless. He was called Neutron Jack for no reason except the fact he would not would not tolerate with inefficiency. So this combination is what creates great leadership for the future. Leaders normally have a great design, or they get their teams, like I've always done, to kind of collaborate on a vision, and they are able to roll up their sleeves and ensure execution. Leaders who sit in the corner office and give orders are absolute dinosaurs in today's society. You have to be participative. You have to be out there in what the Japanese call the gemba, which is the shop floor, and being seen as a collaborative leader. And always be part of the action faction, which means you can't just sit there and give gyan, but you have to actually make stuff happen. Again, the question I keep asking various people is, okay, who is the last 10 people in your organization you had a drink with or coffee with, etc.? And if it's all the time members of your leadership team and you keep sitting in a little corner boardroom and discussing strategy, your organization is dead. So you have to honor rebels, skeptics, hang out with all kinds of people. Don't hang out with what my ex-boss used to call the 3 C's. You know what the 3 C's are? Chamchas, chelas and cronies. Okay? The minute you do only chamchas, chelas and cronies, you're getting this image of yourself which is way above. Sadly, many of our politicians, many of our business leaders fall into that trap. But hang out with people who will question, iconoclastic, arsonists, passionist doers, not negative people, don't get me wrong, the words are very strong, but still people who are going to question the status quo all the time. That's important. Build relationships, easier said than done. I mean, this whole concept of work-life balance seems to imply that work is a place where I'm getting killed and bored and God knows what, and I want time to hang out with my friends. I mean, I love going to work. I may be an anachronism and I'm too old for the current generation. But at the end of the day, if you don't love your work, what's the point in wasting even those 40 hours of your work week? Do something else. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry, I thought you were late. Okay. Networking, I mean, that's the same thing. Collaboration, networking. I'm just saying, be out there. And especially in this world where things are changing so fast, listening, active listening and working with people is important. Building relationships, I just mentioned that. Talent fanatics, today, not a week passes when I don't find somebody extremely bright in a conference or a business school and say, can you join us? In my own alma mater, NITI, which is now IIM Mumbai, I remember I went for a cultural event because the director invited me. So and the compere was so good. I still remember her name, Shubham Garg. So at the end of it, I met Shubham and said, are you in second year or first year? She said, second year. I said, as soon as you finish, you come and join Zen, sir. I have a job for you. So I think she thought I was an old man making a pass at her or something like that, but nevertheless. So she must have gone and complained to the placement office. Okay, so next day I get a call from placement saying, sir, you can't make offers like this. There's a placement process. Okay, you have to write to us, then you have to interview 10 people, do a group discussion, if you want an entrance test. I said, I only want Shubham Garg. I thought she was fantastic. I need a communicator like Shubham Garg working for Zensar. I still then went through the process, wrote to them, interviewed 10 people and hired Shubham Garg. Okay. But the point I'm making is, for me, I can instinctively spot somebody who will do well with me. I cannot instinctively spot somebody who will not do well with me. So that's still my Achilles heel, because sometimes you get carried away by great communications and they don't actually work out, but that's okay. If I can get it right 7 out of 10 times, why not? So that's what I'm saying. A leader has to be a talent fanatic. You have to hunt down great talent anywhere in the world you find it, and you never know where you will find it. Okay? Look for inspired youth, which is the Shubham Garg example I'm saying. Conversations, very important. I keep telling my friends in IIM Ahmedabad and Harvard Business School that the fundamental difference between an American MBA student and an Indian MBA student is, if you ask a question in a Harvard class of 180 people, 110 will go up. If you ask a class in India, everybody will wait for the other guy to ask the question. Same thing is happening here, by the way. Okay, it's our natural tendency to sit ideally at the end of a table so that you can do your WhatsApp when you get bored. No, so I hate to sit in the front row. Okay? It's very, and my wife keeps telling me, do not sit in the front row because somebody will be taking video and they'll see you on your phone. I said, okay. But that's our response. No? But if you're engaging, I mean, you can really get audience to participate. And I get that more in America than in India, but that's life. Okay. Creating blame-free cultures. I mean, we keep saying this. Okay. Last couple of slides, don't worry. Thriving on paradox. The business is all about paradox. India is going to be paradox. America is paradox. So any environment you're running, you can never predict what will happen 1 month down the line, which is what I said right in the beginning. But you also have to be consistent. I mean, my company is called 5F World, by the way, and that's my own company, not Honeywell, where I chair the board, etc. And 5F stands for my mantra for leadership: fast, focused, flexible, friendly, and fun. And I believe that even if you drop one of the F's, you're not the perfect leader, because the flexible and focused might sound like a bit of a dilemma or a paradox, but you have to make all this happen. That's what happens. Finally, a few suggestions I have for you if you want to be a great leader. Be a great learner. Never stop learning. I did my mechanical engineering, then sometime later did industrial engineering, then sometime later did my PhD in IIT Bombay, then sometime later did AMP in Harvard Business School. It's been a wonderful journey. You learn, practice. It's an ongoing process. And the reason I do so many talks and associations is because learning from audiences is also as important learning as anything else. Okay? Leaders have to be great storytellers, otherwise nobody listens to you anyway. Great performers, great CEOs. My best definition of CEO is a clairvoyant, which is somebody who can look into the future, an evangelist who is passionate for change, and an orator or a communicator. So if you're a good clairvoyant, evangelist, and orator, you can become a great leader. How do you become a great leader? I'm borrowing from Tom Peters' mantras. This is very important. Be aware of your impact on others. You're not sitting in a vacuum. People ask me, why do you still wear a suit and tie whenever you speak? I said, I like to do it. Okay. Now, even if somebody says, oh, the previous guy wore jeans and this guy is wearing a suit, he must be really old-fashioned. It's okay. Okay, at least you're being different, right? So, have a coach, very important. Okay, I've never had a coach in my life, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't. But have somebody who can tell you, hey, you should do this. Like my wife is my biggest coach, saying don't sit in the front row and look at your phone. Okay, so these kind of things are important. Somebody who will not say, boss, you're great all the time, but be willing to correct you, even these little nuances that you have. Okay. And of course, very important, if you have to help, if you think you're now God's gift to mankind and you will help your team to be successful, are you successful yourself? Okay, is there some way to go in that 20%? Do you know what that 20% gap in your own capability is? So these are important aspects of leadership. Do stuff that matters. I mentioned Steve Jobs. Don't waste your time on the trivia. If you have an insanely great idea like Jobs had, just go out and make it happen. Okay, Americans are much more direct. Indians, we tend to kind of look for consensus. I mean, there are some great, like Dhirubhai Ambani, for instance. Whether you like him or hate him, the fact of the matter is he changed the way business is done in India. Mahatma Gandhi, without a question, in terms of non-violence and so many others. This is the Tom Peters must-do for leaders. Okay, plan for succession, mentor people. Perform, lead, install confidence. Prune the mass of clutter. I mean, do the important stuff. I think I can say this 10 times and I would not tire of saying it, because I see so many people wasting their time in trivia, and you cannot be a leader if you don't know what is important for your business or for your life. Make sure you have fun. The last two F's. Okay, don't be so focused that all you do is work 90 hours a week. I mean, that doesn't help you at all. Okay, and love your job. The point I was making: love your job, love your people. If you're not working with people whom you love, you'll never be happy. Then there's always something that's going to be bothering you. And the very last lesson, okay, and I will stop here, is you should know when to leave. So thank you very much. It's been nice talking to you. Okay. I think I have 3 minutes more, so if anybody has a question, feel free. Sir, please.
Conclave had not scored actually 165.
183.
Others could have followed all the players. You have won the World Cup time. Don't think the leader has to perform.
No, I see there are two types of leaders, and it's actually very good. He's saying, doesn't the leader have to perform all the time? It'll be good to be a performing leader. I think I'm a performing leader. But it doesn't mean, for instance, the gentleman who took over from me when I left Aptech in 2001, Pramod Khera, very good guy. IIT, IIM, the classical. But he was completely different in personality to me. the company still did well. So there is no one definition of leaders. Okay, even today people will say, boss, you were such a great leader. That's because I was a performer, not necessarily because I was a great leader. So sometimes people confuse the performer with the great leader. Okay, I still don't know why people see Shah Rukh Khan movies, but I'm sure all the girls will just say, what are you saying? He's such a great guy, you know. So who are we to comment? Okay, so I'm just saying that different strokes for different folks, different leadership styles. So long as it gets you the outcome, sir, leave it. Okay, if Kapil Dev was great, fantastic. I also think that Saurabh Ganguly was a good leader, although he used to score once in 4 innings, but he still got lots of results. Okay, and the jury is out on who will be our next captain. Let's see where it is. Any other questions? Oh, sorry. Oh, Baba, that's a big question. My goodness. Samrat, what is your key question? Okay, it's a very, very complex set of questions. It's almost like the treatise on leadership. But he's saying, how do you foster startups? How do you have... See, all these are important because, again, one of my favorite leaders is Sanjeev Bajaj of Bajaj Finserv. I mean, I was actually his digital advisor for a year. And just to give you an example, okay, we all talk about getting startups and young companies into large companies. Bajaj Finserv, to my mind, is the single most successful NBFC in the country. I mean, they can't... I'm just exaggerating. But if you look at the way they foster startups, for instance, I mean, we had created a little incubator, and I remember we put out a huge worldwide call for people who can do startups, who can contribute to our mission. And we got applications from Tel Aviv and London and Boston and Bangalore and everywhere else. And you know what we did? We got onto a plane that is 3 CEOs of the Bajaj Finserv Group, Sanjeev Bajaj, me, and an advisor called Nanu Pamnani. For 10 days, we went on Sanjeev Bajaj's private plane to all these locations. And I think we got KPMG and TCS to organize the top 10. And we interviewed some 60 startups. This is not delegated to the Chief Innovation Officer, done by the board of directors of Bajaj Finserv. That's your commitment to making it happen. Out of that, 4 startups did great work for Bajaj Auto after that. So startups are important. Academic institutions, you know, I was just telling in the little interview I did outside, you know, a lot of us, especially, you know, all these evolved CEOs that we are, we say, oh, academic institutions are useless. They don't teach the kids. They're not teaching Oracle 13.7. They're teaching Oracle 11.0. I am saying the problem is with the corporate boss, not the academic institution. Academic institutions are not skills development agencies. I mean, if you're running a good university, please teach software engineering. Don't teach Oracle 11.7 or Microsoft 8.0, because that will keep changing. But what we call learning agility, you know, how do you as a company work with an academic institution and help them to create a better caliber of learners within their institutions? I think that's more important than, you know, can I take somebody and put them on the job tomorrow morning? Okay, which is why skills learning is a responsibility of the corporate, but core competencies, core skills, I mean not skills, the core education has to be done by the academic institutions. And I think oh my God, the questions changed, thank you. Okay. This is something I've answered, Kavita, that leveraging technology and innovation to try, I mean, this is not how, but an imperative. Okay, if you don't do that, as I said earlier, you'll be a dinosaur. So innovation, new technology, learn to embrace it. Do not be afraid of it. Okay, don't look at AI and think, oh my God, this is artificial super intelligence. It will become super intelligent only if you make it super intelligent. But if you retain that edge in terms of intelligence, I don't think you'll ever have to fear about technology. Good. The last one of Samrat. How do you keep pace? You're saying keep pace is important. I mean, that's why keep learning. There's no way, Harari says in Homo Deus, that every 15 years, assuming you will be completely obsolete. So if you have learned nothing in the last 15 years, sorry, the world has no place for you. Now, in a career of, let's say, 45 years, you have to reinvent yourself 3 times at least, maybe more in the future. So unless you have that willingness to do it, learn all the time, you're not going to be successful. So I think that's the main thing. You tell me when to stop. Huh? No, they're 2 separate islands, but Rajiv is a close personal friend of mine. Sanjeev is who I worked for in Bajaj Finserv. So both are very completely different. Yeah. Exactly, and both are very successful companies. Bajaj Auto, Bajaj Finserv are both icons. So that's why I said exactly the answer to his question. There's no single prescribed style of leadership. What works for you, what your team gets used to, and what your team doesn't get too used to, because if your team gets too used to your style, they'll predict what you'll say. So you got to be flexible in your own methods all the time also. So it's an art that you develop in leadership over a period of time. Okay, thank you very much. Before she throws me out, thank you.